971 SAGE 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. We are at full strength. Mr. McConnell is back and is in mid-season form. You look like Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts, remember? The only, quote, African-American in the World Series. And he was asked about that by a host. When did you realize, everybody's talking about it, everybody's talking about it in the country, when did you realize that you were the only African-American in the World Series? Just now. Joe Biden says it's an embarrassment for Trump to refuse to concede. Joe Biden and the word embarrassment in the same sentence. Interesting. Next hour, we're going to be speaking with a MIT PhD mathematician who claims an analysis of 4 counties of Michigan votes shows that it is statistically impossible for all these votes to have been shifted to Joe Biden late in those 4 counties. Now, he is a mathematician from MIT, and he speaks like a mathematician from MIT, so we'll try to get him to explain in English exactly why he believes the numbers indicate that something is rotten in at least 4 counties in Michigan. Dr. Fauci estimates that a vaccine will be available for anyone who wants one by April of next year. Isn't it interesting how far more optimistic everybody seems to be now that President Trump, they think, has lost the election? Joe Biden has a COVID advisor who said something very different back in March than what he's saying right now. We'll talk about that. But first, yesterday I interviewed Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, who served under both Republican and Democrat presidents, a very long, distinguished record. And he told us a story that was jaw-dropping, that there are software programs developed by the National Security Agency for the CIA that the Biden campaign used to literally switch votes from Trump to Joe Biden. Now, my next guest is from Maryland, graduated from Garden City, New York High School, earned a BS degree from the U.S. Military Academy, has a master's in international relations from George Washington University, graduated from Armed Forces Staff College and from the National War College, was a forward air controller and fighter pilot during the Vietnam War, flew 407 combat missions during his 4 tours of duty. In addition to his Vietnam service, he served overseas in NATO, Pacific Air Forces, as commander of the 11th Air Force in Alaska. Retired in 1994 as an Air Force Lieutenant General who served in top military positions under the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President of the United States. He has more decorations and ribbons than a Macy's Day Christmas tree. Some of them are, and this is not the entire list, Distinguished Service Medal, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Distinguished Flying Cross, Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Air Force Commendation Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross Unit Citation, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, also awarded the Third Order of the Rising Sun by the Japanese government for his outstanding service in enhancing relations between our country and Japan. Also inducted into the U.S. Air Force Order of the Sword in July 1980. This award recognizes both military and civilian individuals for their significant contributions. Please welcome to the program Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney. General, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Larry. I'm absolutely delighted and honored to be part of your show.
Well, General, the reason I took so much time in giving you the introduction is because I want people to understand exactly who you are and what you've done, because I think that's very important in determining the credibility of what you're about ready to tell us. Your claim is that the 2020 election was essentially stolen by Democrats using computer programs called Hammer and Scorecard that were developed by the National Service Agency and the CIA, and that these programs were used to intercept votes and flip those votes from Biden to Trump. Is that your assertion?
That's correct.
Wow.
It's powerful.
It is powerful.
It's the first. It's the real classic demonstration, Larry, of using cyber warfare in a democratic electoral process. It had been used by Obama and Biden in 2012 to swing Florida, but that was just one state. It was tried in the 2016 with Hillary, and that's why they were all surprised and shocked. But I can't tell you the details, but let's say it was thwarted. This time, it was not thwarted. I did not find out about it till a week ago this Sunday, and went on Steve Bannon's show on Monday with Sidney Powell as a co-host, and discussed it and said what's going to happen in the election tomorrow, that being 3 November, Tuesday. And lo and behold, it happened.
General, before you go on, the entire interview that you did with Steve Bannon, we put it up on my website, LarryElder.com, as well as an article from the Daily Beast. I'm sure you've seen it, completely saying that everything that you've said and the sources that you relied on are wrong and that you're pushing a conspiracy theory. But before you respond to that, I want to say that you probably are aware that 78% of Democrats, according to a Gallup poll, believe not only that the Russians interfered, General, with the election in 2016, but that the Russians literally changed vote tallies. Even though a Senate committee looked at it and found no evidence that that had happened, Jay Johnson, the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Homeland Security under Obama, testified there's no evidence that the Russians changed vote tallies. Yet 78%, General, of Democrats believe that the Russians changed vote tallies. You're telling us that the Biden campaign changed vote tallies.
Yes, I am.
Wow.
Let's take a sniff test.
Okay.
Why don't we say, let's see, we all know what Biden did to campaign. He had probably the largest group he ever had, may have been 20 people with 20 cars blowing horns. He stayed in the basement most of the time. He never gave a press conference that was an hour long and that took tough questions. And all those things he did, and then he wins with a larger voted number than Barack Obama. That doesn't pass the sniff test, does it?
Tell us about these programs. Hammer Scorecard. You said they were used by the Obama administration and used again in 2016 unsuccessfly?
Yes.
Okay.
2 weeks after President Obama took over on the 3rd of February, 2009.
2009.
Yeah. He moved Hammer, which was a CIA program that was used for anti-terrorism, going after radical Islamists, and we call it a SIGINT, Larry, in the vernacular, a signals intelligence program. He moved that over to a secret SCIF, self-compartmented intelligence facility, in which he then started listening to U.S. citizens. And he did this, and we had a whistleblower because, as you know, the CIA is not allowed to listen to U.S. citizens. You need a court order, and it's got to be the FBI. NSA listens to them abroad. We understand that. And so we had a whistleblower by the name of Dennis Montgomery, and you're talking about the Daily Beast, which they resurrected some very old accusations against Dennis, which means, and then put some in about me, and then put some in about the Attorney General Ball.
We will pick this up on the other side. And later on this hour, we're going to be interviewing Michelle Steele. She is the winner of a seat in Orange County that has gone now from Democrat back to Republican, where it belongs. I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
All across America, the Larry...
This is Owen Strain for Townhall.com. In the film No Country for Old Men, a sheriff played by Tommy Lee Jones recounts a dream. He saw his father riding a horse going on ahead to make a fire somewhere out in all that dark and all that cold, and I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. The Coen brothers' film wasn't political, but these words resonate today. Hopelessness abounds, lockdowns continue, marriages suffer, children languish, and politics divide. Many years ago, a wise man said to his followers that they should love their neighbor. Christ's words promise to galvanize us in the wake of a bitter election. We must love our neighbor in divided days. We should not fall prey to hate or insufferability. We should go on ahead and make a fire somewhere in the dark and work to prepare a better country for our children and for citizens yet to be born. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
What do you think?
Look, where's the Democrat wave? What happened to the wave that we had been promised for months? We were told that Biden would come down at 10 o'clock and he'd declare victory and the whole of America would be Democrat blue. It didn't happen. The pollsters lied to us, or they didn't change their methodology from the last 4 years. That's fact number one. Number two, we have seen things happen, such upsets for the Biden campaign, the likes of which the Trump campaign never expected, across ethnic lines, across minority groups. These are things that will redefine the political landscape of America for decades to come. However, it is now down to two questions, and I tweeted this out this morning. It's down to the lawyers. Which side has the better lawyers?
Yeah.
We need 100 Rudy Giuliani's. We need 100 Jay Sekulows. We need 100 Jenna Ellis's. Do we have them is the question. I don't know. I don't have that visibility. I spoke to the campaign today. They said, we're winning everywhere. Arizona, you name it. Pennsylvania, we are winning. That doesn't matter. It's who counts the votes and when they count them. The longer we stretch out these accreditations of the counting tolls, the bigger the chance there is for fraud. And then lastly, and I'm not trying to be crude here, it's a question of which side has the greater testicular fortitude. You know the president, I know the president. He will never give up. But it's not just up to him, it's up to his team, and Team Trump, and it's up to the GOP. Is the GOP up to it? That's how I see it, Charlie.
Yeah.
You, how do you see it?
Well, first, I think we dodged a missile. I mean, never before have we seen such powerful people want to get back into power at the governmental level.
And spend as much money.
Well, think about it. It was Hollywood, sports, international leaders, big tech, finance.
George Soros.
Every powerful person that wanted to reclaim the federal government was involved.
Right.
We've never seen that.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
If liberty, especially freedom of speech, has been this suppressed under a Trump administration, can you imagine how much it will be suppressed if they not only have all of the academia and all of the media, they will also have the presidency and the Senate? Can you imagine? The suppression of liberty, the country would be moving toward communism. I never spoke like this in all of my life. Communism is not even a dirty word any longer among half of the young people who have been indoctrinated rather than educated. You should show all of them my video. I did it years ago for PragerU. Why isn't communism hated as much as Nazism? 5 minutes, it's all it takes.
Call the Larry Elder Show now at 888-971-SAGE. That's 888-971-7243. Eldorado's Let Larry know what's on your mind.
Larry, like many Americans, here it is 10 minutes to 4 in the morning. This is the third time I've woken up from a dead sleep with the scary thought of what's going on. There's no way to change it. They pulled their fraud off. It's total fraud. They're getting away with it. And I believe there's a lot of Republican politicians out there that are letting him get away with it. And what's really got me worried is, and I'm pretty much losing hope, is this runoff in Georgia. They're going to pull the fraud there too, buddy. Okay, they're going to pull it just as hard as they did with this election, and they'll probably pull it off. We'll have a complete all Democrat across the board. And you can kiss America goodbye, and there ain't no way getting it back.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Later on this hour, we're going to be speaking to Michelle Steele. She is a successful Republican candidate, has unseated a Democrat in Orange County, switching a seat that was longly held by Republicans, went to Democrats. Now it's back to Republicans, which means the Republicans have increased their margins in the House by about 6 or 7 seats, with about another half a dozen that look promising. So the Republicans may gain double digits when the expectation was they were going to lose 15 seats in the House. And then in the second hour, we're going to be speaking with a mathematician from MIT who claims that based on his analysis, there's no way that Joe Biden actually won Michigan, especially given irregularities that he claims took place in 4 counties. Now, speaking about giving up, there is a piece in Zero Hedge called "It Defies Logic. Scientists Finds Telltale Signs of Election Fraud After Analyzing Mail-in Ballot Data." This is a different scientist from the one we're going to talk to next hour. And there's another piece published in the Epoch Times, 20 Reasons Election 2020 is Far from Over. We have those both up on LarryElder.com. We'll be talking about them later on in the program, but if you want to take a preview, go to LarryElder.com and check it out. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. As mentioned yesterday, I interviewed General Thomas McInerney, Air Force General, worked under both Republican and Democrat presidents, very, very highly decorated, and considered to be a serious guy, not a nutcase. And he argues that the Department of Defense, the Defense Security Agency, and CIA developed software that was able to literally change vote tallies. He claims somehow, some way, the Biden team used this software and literally changed votes from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. The inventor of this software is a man named Dennis Montgomery, and McInerney said he is a genius.
Now, when you start getting this kind of publicity by the Daily Beast and others, and it'll get to the New York Times and the Washington Post, it means you're on to something.
The Daily Beast has trashed this whole notion that there is a software that the Biden team used it and calls it a conspiracy theory, and calls Dennis Montgomery, the man who invented the software, the man that Thomas McInerney called a genius, a whistleblower, essentially a whistleblower nutcase.
It means they have started a counter program against you to discredit you.
Okay, General, let's hold it right here for now. We're going to take a break. We come back. I want you to explain exactly what these computer programs are. You claim that the Biden administration used it in 2009 in January. The Obama administration, and the Obama administration used it again in 2012, and that the Biden administration used these programs this year in order to influence, in order to change votes from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. And we come back, Lieutenant General Tom McInerney will explain exactly how this happened. My guest claims that the 2020 election was stolen by Democrats using computer programs called Hammer and Scorecard, developed by and for the National Security Agency and the CIA. And my guest argues that it was used to intercept the vote and flip votes to Biden from Trump. General Tom McInerney is my guest. General, before we go on and before you lay out exactly what you think happened in 2020, a number of people, of course, are going to have questions. What's your party affiliation?
I'm a Republican.
Mm-hmm. And you served under both Republican and Democratic administrations? Absolutely.
In active duty as the number 3 man in the Air Staff, I served under the Bush administration and then the Clinton. Prior to that, that was at a 3-star level, and that's when I was working directly for the Vice President on his reinventing government, as well as the number 3 man in the Air Force. So, and prior to that, when the change of previous administrations, Larry, it goes back so long ago, I can't remember what it was, but I remember when it changed, and nothing changed in the bureaucracy. I point that out. Mm-hmm. Now that's different. The swamp does very different things than I'm used to.
You have retained your top secret clearance?
Yes.
And when the head of U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency calls your claim, quote, nonsense, close quote, your reaction is what?
Well, does he listen to what the facts are? Mm-hmm. Now, look, this is a very restricted program, and it's a SAP program, which is Special Access Program, and not many people know about it. I was never briefed on it until I was told in 2017 in March by Admiral Ace Lyons, who is no longer with us, but told me about the program, and that's telling me that they were surveilling the Trump administration, and they'd done it before. So that's the first I heard of Hammer. Mm-hmm. And so that was used, and then I kind of lost track of it until last Sunday, and someone told me that they were going to use it on this election. Mm-hmm. And they had a new application. For our listeners, let's assume that they think that Hammer is like your iPhone, and on it you have apps like on your iPhone. Well, Scorecard is an application that works votes and keeps them within 3%, and you shift from one person to the other. So they put this at what they call the transfer points. When the votes come in state elections from the voting polls, and they go up to the Secretary of State, and they have different computer setups, but they call them transfer points for state elections. That's the first time the Internet becomes involved with them. Except I'm now finding out that some polling booths are hooked up to the Internet in Texas and some other places. But in any case, in general, they aren't. So it's difficult to get to them until they get to the transfer points. That's where, like on Michigan, at 0400 in the morning, on the 4th of November, 138,000 votes showed up for Joe Biden.
We're going to be talking about that on the other side. 138,000 votes, he says, showed up for Joe Biden. Again, we're going to be speaking with an MIT mathematician next hour who claims that based on his analysis, there's no way that Joe Biden won Michigan. And we're going to be speaking with Michelle Steele, who won her race for a House seat in Orange County, flipping a district from Democrat to Republican, adding yet another House seat for the GOP. I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
You're listening to The Larry Elder Show.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I don't get the pick because, number one, she barely polled 1% in the primary, had to get out early because her campaign completely just collapsed. And to my surprise, because going into the primary, before it really got started, I thought, she's got some charisma. Maybe she's a real contender. And then Tulsi Gabbard eviscerated her in like the second or third debate, and she was done. But I do remember, and this was another reason I didn't think Joe would pick her, she basically called Joe Biden in one of the debates a racist and a sexual predator. And I guess he wasn't paying attention because he picked her anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just bizarre. And then she came out with this cartoon over the weekend in which she really avowed socialism in a way I've never seen an American political candidate do, by saying that it's not just equality, it's equity. And she went on to describe that it is not equal opportunity, it is equal outcomes.
Yeah.
That was stunning. Eric, I've never heard.
You might as well put a gun to my head, say, give me your money. I mean, that's effectively what that is. That's the nice cartoon way of putting it.
Stunning. Yeah, I've never heard an American politician, not even Bernie Sanders, explicitly said, let's have exactly the same outcomes. Because, I mean, if that's true, then Bernie and Kamala Harris have to give up a lot of their wealth, and both of them are multimillionaires, which means that if that's the case, then let them sign away a significant portion of their wealth and put it in the pot, and we'll stir it up and divvy it out, just like good old socialists do.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
It's pretty remarkable and really promising. And I know that's not really the tone of the movement right now, but they spent $380 million to lose in Iowa, Kentucky, Montana, probably North Carolina, and Maine. So without the Senate, I still think the president's going to win. What we know is that the Senate will remain in Republican hands. It will.
Let's talk about why that matters for a second. Because whether it's packing the Supreme Court,
not going to happen.
Whether it's lowering the voting age,
whether it's
making Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. new states.
Not going to happen.
That is a sucking chest wound. That is an injury to the Democrats, the likes of which, look, we are safe on those issues now.
Not to mention the entire cabinet, if we lose the presidency, now has to go through advise and consent through the U.S. Senate.
Of the Senate.
And so instead of Elizabeth Warren becoming Treasury Secretary, they'll just get another Goldman Sachs banker. Like, okay, fine,
right,
whatever.
Or Bernie Sanders become the Secretary of Labor.
Precisely.
Right.
That dog is not going to hunt in the Mitch McConnell Senate. And so we should have lost.
We were told that we were going to lose.
Let's just be honest. We were outspent like 5-1.
Yes.
We had our stuff censored on social media.
The president was censored.
Everyone was censored. Yeah. We went through a shutdown, a lockdown, a virus that we were getting blamed for politically.
Yes.
They had Black Lives Matter plastered on the NBA finals, every person watching that. BLM Incorporated riots. We were supposed to lose.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is now close is an interruption of the plans for Joe Biden and the Democrat ruling class.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Whether it's packing the Supreme Court,
not going to happen.
Whether it's lowering the voting age,
whether
it's making Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. new states.
Not going to happen.
That is a sucking chest wound. That is an injury to the Democrats, the likes of which, look, we are safe on those issues now.
Not to mention the entire cabinet, if we lose the presidency, now has to go through advise and consent.
Hi, Larry. Yesterday when I was listening to you and I heard General McInerney, I thought, my God, this is the story of the century. You know, the inner plottings of the CIA against the government of trying to do a term. This is 7 Days in May. Remember that movie? I wish more would be said about this. Why isn't this all over the TV and the radios and in the papers? This is incredible.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder on this Veterans Day. ReliefFactor.com studio. Well, as you'll hear, I asked General McInerney why President Trump has not made this argument. And after all, President Trump is talking about voting irregularities that may actually exist but might not be enough to overturn any one of the states. This is monstrous if true. Why isn't Sean Hannity talking about it? Why isn't Rudy Giuliani talking about it? All of which I put to General Tom McInerney. My guest is retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, who served in top military positions under the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President of the United States. General, does the Trump administration know about these programs, and why hasn't the Trump administration said something about them?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I know when I went on Steve Bannon on Monday that was hoping to warn them. I'm not connected with the administration at all, and for certain reasons, I haven't gotten into the Pentagon lately, and so I don't know if they are aware of them. I think they're aware of them because, well, again, because it's a SAP, Special Access Program. Mm-hmm. It's very restricted, and so I suspect there are very few people that are fully knowledgeable of this program.
And General, that means there are very few people that could do this. So can you name names? Can you tell us who did this?
Well, I don't know who did it, and because they had to take this program out of government control when they left. You asked a good question as we were closing out the last segment, Larry. And someone did that. Now, I don't know how they did it, but the CIA has very clever ways of doing things, and they could have said they retired or whatever. But the Democratic Party controls it. I was told on Monday night that the DNC, for instance, was operating the system to a degree, and there are other things, but specifically, it wasn't a widely known program.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these signals intelligence programs are not. They're SAP, special access programs. But the easy thing to do, look, I can be criticized and call me a tin hat or whatever you want, but as long as we examine the data, look at the data, we have people that are working with us who alerted us to it, that watch them do this. And so that's why I feel very confident. I communicate with those people, and they were telling me as it was going on what was happening, etc. So I feel once the U.S. government gets in on it, and President Trump should really get involved with this.
Mm-hmm.
Because he understands this stuff better than most. The bureaucracy will be reading the Daily Beast and saying, "Well, Dennis, hasn't got it, et cetera, et cetera." That's fine if he doesn't have it. But let's see what he's got. Let's see the numbers that come out once you do what I just said. Do an audit of the numbers for Biden, the numbers for President Trump, that go to each Secretary of State, and then that are forwarded from there. That's a fairly easy thing to do, and there are other mechanical things that can be, or technical things that can be done. But look, you're hearing a lot, Larry, of voter fraud.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about the mail-in ballots. You don't hear about the absentee ballots, because the absentee ballots have a chain of control. You know who you mailed it to, you know the name that's coming back on it, someone has co-signed it, etc. So you have control there. And the mail-in ballots, that all the Democrat governors wanted that. And we're finding large numbers of those batch ones that are not valid. Timestamps in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, etc. So, and then there are, of course, the dead ones. I just saw an article, 21,000 dead people voted in Pennsylvania. And then you have the voting machine that had 5,500 people in Michigan that voted for Trump, but it reflected Biden.
When we come back, we're going to be speaking with Michelle Steele. She ran for and won her race as a Republican in Orange County, a district that had flipped from Republican to Democrat. It has now flipped back to Republican. We'll be talking to her in just a few minutes. And then later on, we're going to be speaking with a mathematician from MIT who's also making the argument that mathematically it is highly unlikely that legitimately Joe Biden won Michigan. Now, Pete and Seth Talbot, the father-son owners of Relief Factor, are on a mission. They want to literally double their number of happy customers. Here's how they're going to do it. By offering you their 3-week quick start, still discounted to only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. So try it. Over 70% of the people who order the 3-week quick start go on to order more. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I don't get the pick because, number one, she barely polled 1% in the primary, had to get out early because her campaign completely just collapsed. And to my surprise, because going into the primary, before it really got started, I thought, she's got some charisma. Maybe she's a real contender. And then Tulsi Gabbard eviscerated her in like the second or third debate, and she was done. But I do remember, and this was another reason I didn't think Joe would pick her, She basically called Joe Biden in one of the debates a racist and a sexual predator. And I guess he wasn't paying attention because he picked her anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just bizarre. And then she came out with this cartoon over the weekend in which she really avowed socialism in a way I've never seen an American political candidate do, by saying that it's not just equality, it's equity. And she went on to describe that it is not equal opportunity, it is equal outcomes.
Yeah.
That was stunning. Eric, I've never heard.
You might as well put a gun to my head, say, give me your money. I mean, that's effectively what that is. That's the nice cartoon way of putting it.
Stunning. Yeah, I've never heard an American politician, not even Bernie Sanders, explicitly said, let's have exactly the same outcomes. Because, I mean, if that's true, then Bernie and Kamala Harris have to give up a lot of their wealth, and both of them are multimillionaires, which means that if that's the case, then let them sign away a significant portion of their wealth and put it in the pot, and we'll stir it up and divvy it out, just like good old socialists do.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
It's pretty remarkable and really promising. And I know that's not really the tone of the movement right now, but they spent $380 million to lose in Iowa, Kentucky, Montana, probably North Carolina, and Maine. So without the Senate, I still think the president's going to win. What we know is that the Senate will remain in Republican hands. It will.
Let's talk about why that matters for a second. Because whether it's packing the Supreme Court,
not going to happen.
Whether it's lowering the voting age, whether it's making Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. new states.
Not going to happen.
That is a sucking chest wound. That is an injury to the Democrats, the likes of which, look, we are safe on those issues now.
Not to mention the entire cabinet, if we lose the presidency, now has to go through advise and consent through the U.S. Senate.
Of the Senate.
And so instead of Elizabeth Warren becoming Treasury Secretary, they'll just get another Goldman Sachs bank. Okay, fine.
Panic, stop the voting counts in the key states. And I was just listening to Charlie Kirk. I guess in the entire state of Georgia, there was 818 ballots where they only marked Trump and nothing else down ticket. There was like 95 or 98,000 that just marked Biden. That's fishy there. So I think they were in a rush, and if they could somehow find those ballots and forensically prove, I don't know, a certain percentage were used with the same pin, or I don't know how they would do it, but that 818 to 90-something thousand, just, keep fighting the good fight. Love the show. Bye.
Was he at a construction site when he was calling in? 888-971-SA. That man was multitasking. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Next hour, we're going to be speaking with an MIT mathematician who claims it is mathematically improbable, if not impossible, for Joe Biden to have won Michigan if, in fact, there was a fair counting of the votes. Very controversial. We'll be talking to him next hour. My next guest is the representative-elect for California's 48th Congressional District, having defeated an incumbent Democrat, Harley Rauda, in the election. She was born in Seoul, South Korea. Her father was born in Shanghai to Korean expatriate parents. She was educated in South Korea, Japan, and here, holds a degree in business from Pepperdine and MBA from the University of Southern California, is fluent in Korean and Japanese, and can speak a little bit of English too, by the way. She ran successfully to become a member of the Orange County Board of Supervisors in 2014. Please welcome to the program Supervisor, now Representative-elect Michelle Steele. Michelle, how are you?
Thank you, Larry, for inviting me.
Michelle, every time I interview your husband, I always get an answer, and I know you know what it is. Never better. How are you? Never better.
Never better. Yeah, exactly.
Michelle, how did you pull this off? It was shocking for the Democrats to take that seat. After all, it was held by Dana Rohrabacher for a number of years, and Democrat took it, and we were all told this is the changing demographics of Orange County. Bye-bye, red Orange County. From now on, we're talking about blue Orange County. How did you do it, Michelle?
you know what, you just stick to your issue and with a common sense. You know, I came from the tax agencies, so you know what, I keep talking about that, what I did, and I already had a proven record. And my, opponent was talking about how moderate he was, but you know what, you ended up voting with Pelosi for 100% of the time, and AOC with 92% of the time. I don't think he's really moderate, and he didn't have any proven record for the last 2 years. So you know what, I just stick to it, and he actually joined the protester, to defund the police in city of Huntington Beach in front of the police department, and I'm the one actually declared Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. So there were just so much differences, and I just worked with the common sense, and I think that's the reason that I won.
Michelle Steele, what about the Trump factor in your district? You support Trump. You embrace Trump. In fact, you were the only elected politicians, I think, in 2016 to greet Trump at the airport when he was running for president. And as you know, Trump is widely unpopular in California. I've often said, Michelle, that the only public figure less popular in California than Donald Trump is Charlie Manson, and Charlie Manson is dead.
You know what? Trump's economic policy was totally successful. And you know what? When your president does something good, you praise him. And then, you know what? Actually, I came out against him regarding that he tried to deport the Vietnamese American back to Vietnam. And you know what? I even wrote up a piece, and I said, you know what? This is not the right policy because Vietnamese Americans came here for freedom. You cannot send them back to Vietnam, especially when they have an agreement between Vietnam and U.S. So you know what? I stick to it with the common sense. I stick to it with, what's right and what's wrong. But you know what? I voted for president.
My guest is Michelle Steele. She is the representative-elect for California's 48th Congressional District, flipping a Democrat seat back to Republican. She was elected to the California State Board of Equalization in 2006. She's married to Sean Steele, who was once the chair of the California Republican Party. Michelle, I want to ask you the same question I asked Sean. In California, we have not a single Republican who's elected statewide, as you know. Largely, in my opinion, because of the issue of immigration. If you are a Republican in California and you're trying to run statewide, what is the appropriate position on immigration, illegal immigration?
You know what? We really have to be careful with that because Republican Party has to really separate legal immigration versus illegal immigration. But right now, what governor does, like a sanctuary state, SB 54, and you know what? Those are not really right because we are talking about illegal criminals that, he's been releasing it. And during last, 8 months during the pandemic, he released criminals, but you know what? He's been just like locked down for all innocent citizens and working citizens. So, you know what, we have to make it very clear about illegal versus legal because I came here legally, and there are about 4 million people waiting outside to try to come to the United States legally. So, you know what, we have to honor them first, and then, we move on. I think that's what we have to clear about it.
My guest has been Michelle Steele. By the way, her Twitter handle is at Michelle Steele, STEELCA, Michelle Steele, CA. Michelle, finally, did Joe Biden win this election fair and square?
No, I don't think so, because every vote is very precious and important. So you know what? We have to count the last vote. And at the same time, they were complaining about President Trump. President Trump has right to review. And you know what? Actually, I trust our system. And because every 4 years, in January, we have current president inaugurated. So you know what? Let's just go through counting all the ballots, and let's review it. And then we're going to move on. So you cannot really claim that who's president at this point.
We'll leave it there. Michelle Steele, thank you very much. Congratulations once again.
Thank you, Larry.
God bless. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
Larry posts new excerpts of the show on YouTube every day. Just go to youtube.com/The Larry Elder Show Radio and click on the subscribe button.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
What happened on Election Day was the longest lines they've ever seen.
Correct.
In Scottsdale, Fountain Hills, in in Chandler, in the Northwest Valley, really Republican areas, because people were holding onto their ballots.
Correct.
I have talked to 50 people, because we're headquartered in Arizona.
Yes.
They said their vote has still not been counted according to the registrar's office if they voted on the day of and they dropped their ballot off.
Wow.
50. So that's 50 for 50.
Yes.
So 500,000 remaining ballots. What's the deficit between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? It's 90,000 right now. So let me get this straight. They won't call Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They won't call North Carolina. They didn't call Ohio or Florida. I knew we won Florida at 7:30 last night. 7:30. And here's why.
But they call Arizona.
No, they did not want to give one win to the president. They didn't want this kind of momentum swing. They were filibustering. They were interrupting. They were just kind of bringing down the expectations. And I don't say this lightly. The fix is in against the president. And I said this in our previous couple hours. The American people deserve so much credit. Like, you guys did awesome yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You really did.
Yeah.
You, despite all the disinformation, the impeachment, the coup, the spying, the 5-to-1 spending, the censorship, it's unbelievable how well we did.
It is.
And we don't know how it's going to land. No, we were up against a juggernaut here.
Right. But I still have to say this. My wife got up at 4 a.m. and she was working as a polling officer till 8 p.m. yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she did. And she came home after that and she said, I just don't get it. And I'm not, the president will fight and fight and fight. But Charlie, what you do is the center of it all. Because the question is, how did tens of millions of Americans still vote Democrat? That's the issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Hey, Sam, welcome to The Mike Gallagher Show.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm actually a Biden supporter. Not sure how many Biden supporters have called you this morning, but actually,
you're the first one.
Well, great. I actually am in Georgia. It is contested. I think we may have a Democratic pickup here on the House side. In one of the congressional districts I live in here, we may have Carolyn Bordeaux.
What happened to your blue wave, Sam?
I don't, that's the thing. I am stunned, as what you've been saying this morning on the radio show. I am very, very stunned. What gets me is the African American and the Hispanic vote. And you were talking about the economic issues. I don't really see this president really doing so much for the working class. I mean, the tax bill that they have passed has really benefited.
How can you say that?
No,
Sam,
hear me out.
All right, but let me make a point, and then you've got the floor.
Sure.
I promise. I'm going to give you all the time you need.
Sure.
How can you say that a president whose tenure resulted in the lowest unemployment?
Hi, Larry. I keep hearing on the news all about the paper ballots and the recounting of the paper ballots and the ones that came in late. But the more important story is the hammer and scorecard software that was used to flop the votes over for Biden and Trump. And in my personal opinion, those paper ballots are nothing more than a smokescreen to cover up for the computer sabotage that was done in this election. And that, to me, is a frightening, frightening thing. That needs to be revealed, and it needs to be all over the news. Of course, the leftist news isn't going to report it, but that should be front and center, top story. So, anyway, Larry, love your show.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. And next hour, we will be speaking with a mathematician from MIT who claims that his review of the votes, looking at it mathematically, it is statistically impossible for Joe Biden to have won Michigan. That's, again, a hell of a claim. We're going to talk to him about that in just a few minutes. Now, we post excerpts from the new YouTube channel every single day. Please go to YouTube and check out Larry Elder Show Radio, Larry Elder Show Radio, and click on the little subscribe button. That way you'll be notified every time we post new stuff. And then go to my website, LarryElder.com, and become an Eldorado. You'll see the little E right there. Click that on, and you'll be able to get the show without any commercial interruptions for only 99 cents for the first month. And be sure and follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. My end of the interview with General Thomas McInerney, who argues that this software, hammer, and scorecard were used by the Biden team to flip votes from Trump to Biden. My last few minutes with my guest, Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, who, by the way, wrote a book called Endgame, The Blueprint for Victory in the War on Terror, written in 2004, describes a super secret weapon that is intended to neutralize nuclear weapons. General Thomas McInerney, can you tell us about Dennis Montgomery, who he is?
Dennis is a CIA contractor. In other words, he had his own company, but under contract with CIA when he developed this program in 2003 to go after terrorists. He became a whistleblower once it was moved out of the CIA, and he saw what they were doing, who they were listening to, U.S. citizens, Supreme Court justices, etc.
And the gentleman whereabouts, General McInerney, would not tell us where he is and would not tell us whether or not Dennis Montgomery is cooperating with the people investigating voter fraud. He says there's a whole lot I can't tell you, but there's going to be some major news, General McInerney said, in just a few days. Again, we're going to be speaking with an MIT PhD mathematician who claims, based on his analysis, it is mathematically impossible for Joe Biden to have won Michigan. The interview with the general is also on my YouTube page. Go to Larry Elder Show Radio and check it out. Be sure and click on the subscribe button while you're there. Do not leave town. Okay.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I don't get the pick because, number one, she barely polled 1% in the primary, had to get out early because her campaign completely just collapsed. And to my surprise, because going into the primary, before it really got started, I thought, she's got some charisma. Maybe she's a real contender. And then Tulsi Gabbard eviscerated her in like the second or third debate, and she was done. But I do remember, and this was another reason I didn't think Joe would pick her, she basically called Joe Biden in one of the debates a racist and a sexual predator. And I guess he wasn't paying attention because he picked her anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just bizarre. And then she came out with this cartoon over the weekend in which she really avowed socialism in a way I've never seen an American political candidate do, by saying that it's not just equality, it's equity. And she went on to describe that it is not equal opportunity, it is equal outcomes.
Yeah.
That was stunning. Eric, I've never heard.
You might as well put a gun to my head, say, give me your money. I mean, that's effectively what that is. That's the nice cartoon way of putting it.
Stunning. Yeah, I've never heard an American politician, not even Bernie Sanders, explicitly said, let's have exactly the same outcomes. Because, I mean, if that's true, then Bernie and Kamala Harris have to give up a lot of their wealth, and both of them are multimillionaires, which means that if that's the case, then let them sign away a significant portion of their wealth and put it in the pot, and we'll stir it up and divvy it out, just like good old socialists do.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
It's pretty remarkable and really promising. And I know that's not really the tone of the movement right now, but they spent $380 million to lose in Iowa, Kentucky, Montana, probably North Carolina, and Maine. So without the Senate, I still think the president's going to win. What we know is that the Senate will remain in Republican hands. It will.
Let's talk about why that matters for a second. Because whether it's packing the Supreme Court, whether it's lowering the voting age, whether it's making Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. new states.
Not going to happen.
That is a sucking chest wound. That is an injury to the Democrats, the likes of which, look, we are safe on those issues now.
Not to mention the entire cabinet, if we lose the presidency, now has to go through advise and consent through the U.S. Senate.
of the Senate.
And so instead of Elizabeth Warren becoming Treasury Secretary, they'll just get another Goldman Sachs banker. Like, okay, fine,
Right, or
whatever.
Bernie Sanders become the Secretary of Labor.
Precisely.
Right.
That dog is not going to hunt in the Mitch McConnell Senate. And so we should have lost.
We were told that we were going to lose.
Let's just be honest. We were outspent like 5-1.
Yes.
We had our stuff censored on social media.
The president was censored.
Everyone was censored. Yeah. We went through a shutdown, a lockdown, a virus that we were getting blamed for politically.
Yes.
They had Black Lives Matter plastered on the NBA finals, every person watching that. BLM Incorporated riots. We were supposed to lose.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is now close is an interruption of the plans for Joe Biden and the Democrat ruling class.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Whether it's packing the Supreme Court,
Not going to happen.
Whether it's lowering the voting age,
Not
whether
gonna
it's
happen.
making Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. new states.
Not going to happen.
That is a sucking chest wound. That is an injury to the Democrats, the likes of which, look, we are safe on those issues now.
Not to mention the entire cabinet, if we lose the presidency,
Yes.
now has to go through advise and consent through
Of
the
the
U.S.
Senate. Of the Senate.
And so instead of Elizabeth Warren becoming Treasury Secretary, they'll just get another Goldman Sachs banker. Like, okay, fine,
Right, or
whatever.
Bernie Sanders become the Secretary of Labor.
Precisely.
Right.
That dog is not going to hunt in the Mitch McConnell Senate. And so we should have lost.
We were told that we were going to lose.
Let's just be honest. We were outspent like 5-1.
Yes.
We had our stuff censored on social media.
The president was censored.
Everyone was censored. Yeah. We went through a shutdown, a lockdown, a virus that we were getting blamed for politically.
Yes.
They had Black Lives Matter plastered on the NBA finals, every person watching that. BLM Incorporated riots. We were supposed to lose.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is now close is an interruption of the plans for Joe Biden and the Democrat ruling class.
Look, it's incredibly important to inject that positive tone into what we're doing right now. I switched on Rush's show this morning, and he was all about we can win this. Doesn't matter whether it's Arizona or Pennsylvania. We have the figures. I heard all the great calculations from the campaign manager today. I want your response. For me, from my perspective, you have a much better grasp of things at the grassroots level across the country because of that incredible thing called Turning Point USA you created. But for me, it's down to who has the better lawyers and who has more guts.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
For all of the Democratic dreams of remaking the nation, of packing the Supreme Court, of adding Washington, D.C. as a state, of adding Puerto Rico as a state, of enacting the Green New Deal, of raising taxes through the roof, of ending the filibuster in the Senate, all of that depended on Democratic control of the House and the Senate, plus Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House. And that whole package is not going to happen. The whole Senate thing didn't work out. It appears that Democrats are not going to take control of the Senate. In spite of spending unbelievable amounts of money, they spent $109 million in South Carolina on the presidency. What can you say? I've been listening to your analysis, doing my own, listening to other things. Trump obviously has to keep Georgia and North Carolina.
And Pennsylvania.
He looks like he's going to win Pennsylvania. So then, what he do is when either Michigan or Wisconsin, both of which might be just beyond reach, or Nevada, which I didn't expect that we'd be talking about Nevada as a possible route to victory for Trump.
When you're down really 7,600 votes, there is an opportunity for one error anywhere. They've got to flood the state with lawyers, Byron. That's where Donald Trump's path is, Pennsylvania and Nevada. Although Scott Walker just tweeted out, the former governor of Wisconsin, election recount procedures in Wisconsin. And so he knows there's going to be a recount there.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Next segment, we'll be speaking with an MIT PhD mathematician, MIT grad. Says his analysis of the Michigan vote reveals a real problem and believes that mathematically it is highly, highly unlikely that if the votes were fairly cast, that Joe Biden would have won. Here's what he said recently.
In the three major counties that were analyzed out of the four, Trump's margin was reduced by a minimum of 138,000 votes. I'll repeat that. President Trump's margin was reduced by a minimum of 138,000 votes. So what that means is Trump's vote total was decreased by 69,000, and Biden's vote total was increased by 69,000. In short, 69,000 votes were transferred from Trump to Biden in these counties, and they varied across those counties, but a total of 69 counties. The other piece is this quote unquote transfer was done by a computer algorithm that linearly transferred. What that means, it transferred votes in a proportional basis. For example, the more votes got transferred from Trump to Biden, interestingly enough, as you went to precincts that increased in Republicanism, which means there were more Republicans in that precinct. So basically, and we'll show you, so the vote transfer really occurs more in Republican-based precincts and less in non-Republican-based precincts. Okay?
There was a story that Real Clear Politics had taken their call for Pennsylvania for Joe Biden back. Real Clear Politics says they never made a call for Pennsylvania at all, so we had nothing to take back. Matt Schlapp is a member of the Trump team.
Reporters have gone into these claims that we are making and that we are bringing to court, Juan. And what they're doing is they're saying, well, maybe there's one or two in there that actually voted legally. What you're basically telling me, Bill, is that the 99.9% of all the others, that must be proof that they did vote illegally and that they do live outside Nevada. So this is really important. There's a mantra going on for many in the media that there's no evidence, there's no proof. When I went out to Nevada, I thought I'd see a little bit of fraud there, a little bit of problems there. That's what you normally find on the ground. I've never been to a place where we really were able to demonstrate almost immediately thousands and thousands of improper ballots.
Speaking of Nevada, here is a CBS Las Vegas report on a woman who died in 2017, but somehow, some way, was so determined, even though she was dead, that she managed to vote in 2020.
Now, one of those cases involved a woman who died in 2017. The I-Team's David Charnes looking into that. And David, you talked to this woman's husband.
Kirk Hartle's wife, Rosemary, who passed away 3 years ago. She is one of two cases of somebody who died on Clark County's voter rolls. They were sent a mail-in ballot, and that ballot was returned. The question now is, though, who voted for her?
It was disbelief. It made no sense to me.
Kirk Hartle said he was surprised when he found out his wife, who died in 2017, had sent in a mail-in ballot.
I was surprised because she passed away 3 years ago. I was surprised to even get that.
Rosemary Hartle died at 52 from breast cancer. Her name is still on Clark County's voter rolls, and since everyone in those rolls got a ballot, one was sent to Rosemary. But Kirk says a ballot never got to his house.
That is pretty sickening to me, to be honest with you.
According to ballot tracks, the mail-in ballot was sent October 9th and returned the day before Election Day. Clark County officials say Rosemary's signature is a match to what's on their records. Registrar for Elections Joe Gloria says any illegal activity will be flagged. Now, Keith Hartle wonders who took advantage of his grief, adding he's surprised his wife received a ballot at all.
It certainly brings up a lot of discomfort. There's a pretty exhaustive process that you go through when someone passes.
And in a second case, a man who died in 2017 also had a ballot cast in his name, but election officials tell me it appears his daughter actually sent in that ballot and she never cast her own ballot. Clark County has forwarded these two cases up to the Secretary of State's office. They're the ones who actually investigate. I'm David Charnes, 8 News Now.
Now, this is a former Nevada Attorney General talking about voting irregularities in his state.
Well, that's not even an allegation. That is admitted in open court. Nobody's denying
denying that. They still think that it's a reliable system. And we've now been speaking to these experts, and they say that once you remove the factory setting, it takes months and months of a massive team of experts to get this back to a reliable standard. The other thing that came out in court was that this machine requires a 200 DPI setting to match the signature on the envelope and the signature on the voter file. We know from court as well that the photos in the Nevada system are well below this 200. Those two things combined cast grave doubt on the 200,000 signatures that were verified. And again, no human being went back and double checked these. Those ended up just counting, and we also have the next 400,000+ votes that we have never looked at. And when I say that, people can't believe that.
Press Secretary Kayleigh McInerney.
We keep hearing the drumbeat of where is the evidence? Right here, Sean. 234 pages of sworn affidavits. These are real people, real allegations, signed with notaries who are alleging the following, among other contentions. They are alleging, this is one county, Wayne County, Michigan. They are saying that there was a batch of ballots where 60% had the same signature. They are saying that 35 ballots had no voter record, but they were counted anyway. That 50 ballots were run multiple times through a tabulation machine. That one woman said her son was deceased, but nevertheless somehow voted. These are one of many, many allegations in one county, in a county no less, where poll watchers were in many cases threatened with racial harassment. They were pushed out of the way, and Democrat challengers were handing out documents how to distract GOP challengers. These are real, and anyone who cares about transparency and the integrity of the system should want this to pursue to the discovery phase.
Now, this Nevada poll worker appeared on Laura Ingraham, disguised her voice, and said people from a van were opening and marking ballots for Biden.
I went out to go for a walk on my break, and I probably had a 150, 175-foot stretch where I was walking. The Biden van was parked along this stretch, and I was walking to it, so about 150 feet I was walking, and I could see these people hand over what appeared to be white envelopes, just hand over onto this table. And as I got closer, the envelopes were being torn open. There were two people dropping the envelopes, and two people ripping them open and turning and facing the van and drawing on them or marking them. And as I got closer, as I was walking, they would put things down and pick more paper up and mark on the van, and then put it down and pick some more up. And as I got closer, I thought, those are ballots. And I didn't, I was in my polling uniform, basically. And as I walked by, I looked and I thought, those are ballots. And it kind of was an odd, like, what are they doing? There were 4 total people, but only 2 were marking and opening the envelopes and the paper. And as it took about a 6-minute walk to walk this parking lot, and I did it. I just walked my entire lunch hour. And so I came around a second time, and they're still opening and marking the ballots.
And for all those who are saying that Donald Trump is a sore loser, Donald Trump is peddling conspiracy theories, recall the advice Hillary Clinton gave Joe Biden before the election.
Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances, because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch, and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is. When
we come back, an MIT mathematician says there's no way Joe Biden legally won Michigan based on his mathematical analysis. All of that and more, 888-971-SAGEI. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I want to ask you about the violence that is being threatened. It's obvious, I think, to every American what is going on. I actually think that tolerating this or making preparation for this is a way of tacitly agreeing that violence and this kind of behavior is okay if it happens with certain groups behind it. Nobody has the guts to say it, but it's obvious that the mainstream media and the Democratic Party are turning a blind eye to this.
It's stunning to see major cities across America, interestingly, all run by Democrats, that have already seen businesses boarding up and closing on Election Day because they expect there to be violence in the streets. Now, who'll be doing this violence? Is it going to be Trump voters? No. It's going to be the people on the far left that have torched the cities of Minneapolis and Seattle and Portland and New York and San Francisco and Los Angeles and Kenosha and Atlanta. That's who's going to be out there in the streets, and that's what they're afraid of. And the fact that you have this kind of mindset that says the proper response to an election we don't like is to burn the country down. I mean, I'm 65 years old. I've always lived in a country when the election didn't go my way. I didn't get a can of gasoline and go light my neighbor's house on fire.
Oh, yes, you did. Come on. You're just saying that
no,
because
I only torched his car, not his house.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Assume for a moment that it's a Biden presidency, that he's president-elect, and Donald Trump will not do anything crazy. I know he gave a speech last night that upset some of the talking heads, but my God, what I would have done is gone out and say the polling in the United States is so broken that people stayed home in Wisconsin who would have voted. It's not, if you were going to play Democratic hardball, you'd call the Biden, quote, win illegitimate because the polling suppressed the vote, right? That's the line you would take if you wanted to ape Democrats. But let's not ape Democrats. Let's say it is a divided government with the Supreme Court, 6 conservatives, with the Senate and Mitch McConnell. There's a deal to be done. He doesn't have to confirm one Biden judge, not one, because they did so much to obstruct district court judges. They did so much to obstruct the 3 Supreme Court nominees. And Mitch has got the spine for it, I think. I think they're going to have to make an agreement to get anything done with Mitch McConnell if Joe Biden wins.
No. And you're absolutely right. Mitch McConnell could stop anything. I mean, remember the first thing that the Democrats nuked the filibuster for was for executive branch appointments. But still, the Senate will be in Republican hands. So, I mean, staffing the executive branch will undergo a lot of scrutiny under a President Joe Biden. But look, also the bigger concern is, and I've been saying this since 2015, Joe Biden is going to turn 78 years old. So he'll be 78 when he's sworn in. He'll turn 80 before his term is half over.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
What happened on Election Day was the longest lines they've ever seen.
Correct.
In Scottsdale, Fountain Hills, in in Chandler, in the Northwest Valley, really Republican areas, because people were holding onto their ballot.
Hi, Larry. It's David. I really liked your interview with Lieutenant Colonel McInerney. Wow, mind-blowing stuff. I hope it comes to light, and I hope it helps Trump win. I was curious. I've heard very little talk about a county that I've been so fascinated with, Vigo County, Indiana, Vigo County, Indiana, and it has predicted every single presidential winner since 1888, with only 2 exceptions, 1908, 1952. And this year, it went for Trump again, 56% for Trump. How's this possible? That all these counties that have historically picked the winner of the presidential race somehow didn't do it this time?
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Around 6:45 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be on the Sean Hannity Show with Leo Terrell, talking about how unhinged these Democrats have become, given that Donald Trump has substantially improved his showing with black voters. And in the third hour, we're going to talk about Joe Biden's new COVID advisor. His name is Michael Osterholm, who was saying that we ought to be doing all the kinds of things that Joe Biden's been mentioning up to and including possible lockdowns. He was saying something very different back in March, even saying that wearing masks and social distancing were, quote, largely nonsense, close quote. All of that and more. Now, my next guest has an extraordinary background. He's a scientist, engineer, politician, entrepreneur, and holds 4 degrees from MIT, including a PhD in biological engineering, and is a Fulbright grant recipient. He was born in Bombay, what is now Mumbai, India, and grew up there. Age of 7, he left with his family to live here in the country. Yeah, I did say 4 degrees. My undergraduate degree in electrical engineering, computer science, took a master's degree in visual studies from MIT, Media Laboratory on Scientific Visualization, and has another master's degree in mechanical engineering, also from MIT, and obtained a PhD in biological engineering from MIT in systems biology. In 1994, founded a company called Millennium Cybernetics, and he also ran for office as a Republican, was a candidate in the 2018 election, running against incumbent Elizabeth Warren. And in March of this year, he published an open letter to President Trump where he wrote that a national lockdown was unnecessary and advocated that large doses of vitamins could prevent and cure the disease. Please welcome to the program Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai.
Hi, how are you?
Doctor, I hope I didn't butcher your last name too badly.
No, you did great.
All right, great. Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, obviously, what you're saying is quite controversial, that based on your analysis, you don't feel Joe Biden fair and square won Michigan. Explain to us, non-mathematicians, if you can, Doctor, why you feel that way.
Sure, Larry. Just to give you by way of background, I ran for U.S. Senate also recently against Markey. And the way I started getting involved in this is I noticed that we had clearly won the race. The Rhino Democrats here had run somebody else who was nowhere to be found. Mm-hmm. And, in one county, Franklin County, in Massachusetts, we won by 10%. And in every other county, Larry, this is Massachusetts, where the votes for machine counted, we lost 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. And here was a guy who was nowhere to be seen. He won in Hispanic community 60-40, in black community 60-40, in every other community. So that led me on a journey, and what I came to discover was in the machine voting systems, Larry, that are used pretty much throughout the country, not only the Dominion systems, all systems, a feature was put in place starting in 2002 called a weighted race feature. It's a documented software feature, Larry. What does that mean? Let's say you and I are running against each other. You get 1,000 votes, I get 1,000 votes. Well, there's a switch, quote-unquote, a switch that can be flipped, an algorithm, which will multiply your votes, let's say, by a weight. Let's say 2.5, Larry. So you get 2,500 votes, and let's say my votes can be multiplied by a fraction, 0.5. So I get 500 votes. You following me? So the total vote count would end up being, 3,000 votes. The actual number of people may come into that precinct may have only been 2,000 people, 1,000 for you, 1,000 for me. And what's important to understand is when the paper ballot is taken into those machines, it is scanned, Larry, and a photograph is taken, no different than you taking your iPhone or your Android. That photograph is called a ballot image. What is counted? What's counted is not the paper ballot. The paper ballot is put aside. The image is counted. So if 1,000 people came in for you and 1,000 for me, there should be what? 2,000 ballot images in that chain of custody. But if the weighted race feature was put on, in this case 2.5 multiplied by you get 2,500 votes. I get 0.5, I get 500. You would end up with 3,000 votes. So when I noticed this in Massachusetts, I went to the Secretary of State and I said, I want the ballot images. Massachusetts tells me they delete the ballot images, Larry. So, you're destroying sort of the evidence, which should make that election null and void. So when I looked at Michigan, the anomaly we noticed with our team was something quite fascinating. We did a analysis of looking at a precinct, let's say. And by the way, Larry, in a precinct in Michigan, you can vote two ways, meaning you can make a choice. You can go into a precinct and vote what's called straight party voting, which means you can, if you're a Republican, you just hit a button and you get all the Republicans.
Doctor, before you continue, I want to say a couple of things. One of my favorite programs growing up was Get Smart. Do you remember that program?
Yeah, great program.
Maxwell Smart.
Maxwell Smart.
He was, there was a disaster about ready to go on. He had to disarm a bomb, and there was just about a minute or so for him to disarm this bomb. So he's on the phone with the scientist who invented the bomb. And he says, Mr. Smart, please listen very carefully. Remove the timtabular, the tab, the perpendicular to the fixture over here, and remove this, and remove that, and remove this, and take this, and do this, and do this. Mr. Smart, do you understand what I'm saying? And Maxwell Smart said, I'm familiar with the word remove. Now, doctor, believe me, nobody followed what you just now said. But let me try to say it my way, and you tell me where I'm wrong. Based on the interview that you did, you were about ready to talk about the two different ballots that you can cast in Michigan. One is a straight ticket, and one you vote individually. And your analysis is that roughly X percent of people want a straight ticket, which says to you that X percent of people who want a ticket for Republicans reflects that percentage of people who are Republicans in that district. If 60% of people want a straight Republican ballot, that means 60% of the people in that district are probably Republican. So then you look at the ones who don't order a Republican straight ballot, and you find out rather than 60% of the people, for example, voting for Donald Trump, only 40% of the people did. And that to you is an anomaly. You would think that the same percentage of people that want the straight Republican ballot would be the same percentage of people that vote Republican on the non-straight ballot. But that was not happening in the 4 counties, and therefore you feel that votes were somehow being switched from Trump to Biden. Did I do that in some sort of sensible way?
Yeah, there's just one important nuance there, okay? And that's the following. So, a guy like Mitt Romney said, well, this is normal because, they're Republicans are Republicans and some, a bunch of Republicans don't like Trump anymore. So that's why you saw whether it was a Republican community, which was 80% Republican or 60% Republican or 40%, they don't like Trump as much.
All right, doctor, hold your point. Pick it up on the other side. Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai is my guest. Do not leave town.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
If liberty, especially freedom of speech, has been this suppressed under a Trump administration, can you imagine how much it will be suppressed if they not only have all of the academia and all of the media, they will also have the presidency and the Senate? Can you imagine? The suppression of liberty the country would be moving toward communism. I never spoke like this in all of my life. Communism is not even a dirty word any longer among half of the young people who have been indoctrinated rather than educated. You should show all of them my video. I did it years ago for PragerU. Why isn't communism hated as much as Nazism? 5 minutes, it's all it takes. By the way, I would bribe kids to watch these videos. Many parents do. I have no idea why people don't, why people object to it and don't do it. I've often said, I don't know how you can raise a kid without bribery. Look, let's be honest. Everything, almost everything works like that. You get good grades, I'll be proud of you. Why is that not bribery? Right? Why is I'll be proud of you any less of a bribe than I'll give you $25? This is what will happen. This is what a bribe is, a reward, right? It's just a dirty word for reward. I will reward you if you do X. What's wrong with that?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
The Biden campaign manager declared there is absolutely no scenario where President Trump will be declared the victor tonight. Listen to this audacious arrogance on Team Biden's side.
Just declaring victory without actually having won in the kind of states that we're talking about here is really basically trying to say that COVID is over, even though we know it's not. And all the evidence is saying that COVID in this country continues. And so we want to be clear with all of you. We want to make sure that we're having this dialogue and share with you what we're seeing, and that we also want to be fundamentally clear what we believe to be true. Under no scenario will Donald Trump be declared a victor on election night. And we think that that's really fundamental to how we want to approach tomorrow.
Oh, really? You say that yesterday. You know that, huh? Incidentally, the president shot this garbage down with a brief answer on Fox and Friends this morning.
At what point will you declare victory?
When there's victory. If there's victory, I think we'll have victory. I think the polls are, suppression polls, and I think we'll have victory, but only when there's victory. I mean, there's no reason to play games. And I think we'll have victory. I think I look at it as being a very, a very solid chance at winning. I don't know what the chances are. I don't know how they rate the chances, but I think we have a very solid chance of winning. And I think a lot of that has to do with the tremendous crowd size. But I mean, a small event. There was no small event. Every place, no matter where we went.
I consider that a good sign that the Democrats are proclaiming that there's no scenario where Trump can be declared the victor tonight.
Of 138,000 votes. I'll repeat that. President Trump's margin was reduced by a minimum of 138,000 votes. So what that means is Trump's vote total was decreased by 69,000, and Biden's vote total was increased by 69,000. In short, 69,000 votes were transferred from Trump to Biden in these counties. And they varied across those counties, but a total of 69 counties. The other piece is this quote-unquote transfer was done by a computer algorithm that linearly transferred. What that means, it transferred votes in a proportional basis. For example, the more votes got transferred from Trump to Biden, interestingly enough, as you went to precincts that increased in Republicanism, which means there were more Republicans in that precinct. So basically, and we'll show you, so the vote transfer really occurs more in Republican-based precincts and less in non-Republican-based precincts. Okay?
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, ReliefFactor.com studio. I am Larry Elder. That is my guest, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, holds 4 degrees from MIT, including a PhD in biological engineering. Doctor, you were just explaining to us why you're so confident that these 4 counties, there was some funny business going on.
Yeah, but Larry, math is math, and this is actually quite simple math, because what you notice is in those curves that you were, the explanation you were just sharing, as you move into the more and more of those Republican precincts, you see greater and greater amount of Trump votes being transferred to Biden. So it's it's very interesting. It's not. If you listen to someone like Mitt Romney, who would say, "Oh, Trump is just not liked by Republicans," you would just see across all precincts, let's say 10-20% drop. You follow what I'm saying? But you don't see that. What you see is this little diagonal curve, almost an inverse hockey stick, right? The hockey stick is flipped down. So what that means is that you go into more Republican precincts, you see greater and greater losses to Trump's votes being transferred to Biden. And that hockey stick, it's a nice diagonal line, which is a beautiful line because it's a slope that is not varying. And that is not something that you see in nature. The probability of that, is very, very, very low. And we do know, Larry, that in these systems, they added what I said, that weighted race feature. It's a documented feature. The question is, why is even such a feature in there? Why do they have a feature where you can multiply one person's votes by X and multiply another person's vote by Y. It should be one person, one vote. So this is an embedded feature into the technology. It's an embedded feature that allows for fraud. And what's fascinating is the explanation for this feature was this feature was apparently designed for housing associations, Larry, where let's say you and I lived in the same condo. You had 2,000 square feet, I had 1,000 square feet, and we were voting on some condo issue. You got 2 votes to my 1 vote, a weighted race feature. But there's no reason that kind of feature should be in our electronic voting systems. So that's where you have it. There's a capability to do this. We just started the beginning of this analysis, which clearly shows this quote-unquote anomaly of transfer of votes. And we're going to be continuing this research. There's some very, very interesting questions that this brings up. Did the members of the establishment parties know about this feature? How long has this feature been in there? And so on. So we're fascinated by this, but clearly at the 3 counties that we looked at, it's clear this weighted race feature, this transfer of votes took place. And what's fascinating, Larry, is if you look at Wayne County, predominantly African American, you actually see that the president was actually doing 10% better than Republicans. Okay, he was actually better, and the line is a flat line; it doesn't change. So the algorithm, as I say, was not turned on in those communities, primarily Democrat communities or African American minority communities, and he was actually doing quite well there.
Doctor, are you familiar with the argument made by people like General Thomas McInerney that there is a software that was developed by the CIA and by the defense establishment, and that software was used by Joe Biden to literally switch votes from Trump to Biden?
I've heard of that. Look, this concept has been talked about many, many years ago by a woman called Bev Harris. She brought this up earlier on. She did a lot of work, didn't get a lot of credit for this. She was one of the early people to go do FOIAs and get this kind of information. And what's important to understand is that capability, frankly, is quite easy to do. And when any software engineer that I talk to, and I've been programming software since I was 14 years old, when you look at the fact that a gentleman, a computer programmer by the name of Benny Smith identified that the votes are actually stored not as an integer or whole number, they're stored as fractions. So if you got 1,000 votes, Larry, it's not stored as 1,000. It's stored as 1,000.125. So why are our votes being stored as decimal numbers? And if you tell this to any engineer, that's when they say, "Oh my God, something's terribly wrong." So yes. So whether it's the CIA program, whether it's the original Diebold systems of 2002, which was the Diebold company, which was in financial accounting, they're the ones who created the early voting system software. They're storing our votes as decimal numbers. They have the ability to multiply our votes by a factor. So it's quite alarming, to say the least.
Doctor,
when I look at this as a technologist, we should all be moving back to hand-counted votes, period. You cannot trust these voting systems. I love technology, I'm sure you do, but given where we are with freedom and the fact that a few companies control this technology, it frankly makes no sense to trust our democracy to these electronic.
Doctor, we just have a few seconds left. Have you been in touch with the Trump administration or vice versa?
All I can say is yes, but I can't speak more to that than that.
Doctor, thank you very much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Be well. Bye-bye.
This is Owen Strain for Townhall.com. In the film No Country for Old Men, a sheriff played by Tommy Lee Jones recounts a dream. He saw his father riding a horse going on ahead to make a fire somewhere out in all that dark and all that cold, and I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. The Coen brothers film wasn't political, but these words resonate today. Hopelessness abounds, lockdowns continue, marriages suffer, children languish, and politics divide. Many years ago, a wise man said to his followers that they should love their neighbor. Christ's words promise to galvanize us in the wake of a bitter election. We must love our neighbor in divided days. We should not fall prey to hate or insufferability. We should go on ahead and make a fire somewhere in the dark and work to prepare a better country for our children and for citizens yet to be born. I'm Owen Strain.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
What do you think?
Look, where's the Democrat wave? What happened to the wave that we had been promised for months? We were told that Biden would come down at 10 o'clock and he'd declare victory and the whole of America would be Democrat blue. It didn't happen. The pollsters lied to us, or they didn't change their methodology from the last 4 years. That's fact number one. Number two, we have seen things happen, such upsets for the Biden campaign, the likes of which the Trump campaign never expected, across ethnic lines, across minority groups. These are things that will redefine the political landscape of America for decades to come. However, it is now down to two questions, and I tweeted this out this morning. It's down to the lawyers. Which side has the better lawyers?
Yeah.
We need 100 Rudy Giulianis. We need 100 Jay Sekulows. We need 100 Jenna Ellises. Do we have them is the question. I don't know. I don't have that visibility. I spoke to the campaign today. They said, we're winning everywhere. Arizona, you name it. Pennsylvania, we are winning. That doesn't matter. It's who counts the votes and when they count them. The longer we stretch out these accreditations of the counting tolls, the bigger the chance there is for fraud. And then lastly, and I'm not trying to be crude here, it's a question of which side has the greater testicular fortitude. You know the president, I know the president. He will never give up. But it's not just up to him, it's up to his team, and Team Trump, and it's up to the GOP. Is the GOP up to it? That's how I see it, Charlie.
Yeah.
You, how do you see it?
Well, first, I think we dodged a missile. I mean, never before have we seen such powerful people want to get back into power at the